Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Zorich. You get to know me as Darts Connector, and welcome to the next episode of my podcast, Darts Connector Musings, where I invite interesting people that I meet during my work as promoter, presenter, and producer of cultural events in the Greater Philadelphia area. And today, as I promised, it's a very unusual day. Today is our first live episode in the studio. And for this, I invited a very unusual guest, a very distinguished guest. It's Councilman at Large of the Greater Philadelphia, Mr. David O. David, welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's nice finally to meet you live.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We had a couple of very interesting and very long conversations on the phone.
Very complicated.
And yes, and now I really appreciate you taking time and traveling here to our new studio to answer, actually to talk.
Yes.
It's not, I'm going to ask some questions, but
Sure.
majority, normally it's just a conversation between people who know a little bit about each other and respect each other,
Yes.
I believe.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. So, let's start with little background information. David O is a Korean American, and his parents were pastors.
Yes.
Very religious people, and that's why my first question.
Yes.
How this actually fact that you grew up in a religious family influenced your love and appreciation for arts and culture?
That's interesting. I mean, my father was a pastor, so we grew up with the understanding that God created the universe, and it's the kind of the creation aspect, that he takes great effort in his work, and that he creates all the animals and the landscapes and all that there is. So we appreciate the earth, we appreciate what God has provided for us, but God himself enjoys music, he enjoys all those heavenly things that he provides for us here on earth. Beyond that, it's just an appreciation that God has created in each person some special abilities. Sometimes we may not appreciate them ourselves, but it doesn't mean that they are not worthy of appreciation. My mother was a music teacher, and she sang opera, but she of course ends up being the music director at my father's church. And as his children, we are obliged to learn instruments and to perform in the church.
Okay, so hopefully you didn't end up like a lot of people I know who were obliged to take music lessons because they grew up in Soviet Union where it was noblesse oblige.
Well, maybe similar.
Yeah, maybe similar. Okay, but at least sometimes parents know better.
Well, I really wanted to learn to play the violin. My sister got piano lessons early, and very shortly after my mother enrolled me, I didn't want to learn anymore because you had to practice, and I didn't like to practice. Mm-hmm. But my mother wouldn't let me quit for a long time, and so I did get a forced foundation in music. Mm-hmm. And I did most importantly learn that not everyone is good at music.
Okay. So you actually grew up to appreciate that you understood that creator, like every artist is a creator.
Yes.
So it's not just a lot of hard work, but
yes.
It should be some talent, at least.
Right. Yeah.
At least some
insight,
talent.
some innovation, some interpretation, some effort to communicate visually, performance-wise, or audio, whatever it is.
It's actually interesting, that you mentioned innovation, because it was my kind of next question.
Yeah.
You are head of the Committee of Global Opportunities and Creative Innovative Economy.
Yes.
And I was really surprised when I heard the name.
Yeah.
So can you, elaborate why such a name, how you make a connection?
I got elected in 2011, and before I was sworn into office, I was eager to get working, and one of my concerns was here in Philadelphia, we didn't have a really kind of governmental effort in engaging in international commerce and opportunities. And a lot of that had to do with the creative, innovative economy, which is the sciences as well as the arts. And so I was talking to the council president about the fact that I wanted to go to New York to try to catch some of the Chinese investors that were going to New York. They had to have 50 million cash each in order to be on that trip. They never come to Philadelphia, so we never heard of them. Okay. But I said, you know, it would be good if our council had a committee on global opportunities and the creative, innovative economy. So he said, you know, he picked up the phone and he talked to his staff and he said, we should have a committee. And he said, what did you say? And I said, global opportunities and the creative, innovative economy. And I didn't realize that was going to be the really long name of that committee. So that's how that happened.
Okay. So it's actually kind of reminded me of the old military rule. If you have an initiative, you will be one to actually do it.
Very true. I ended up being the chairman too.
Right. And we actually, I think people from Philadelphia got lucky.
Yes.
Because of that, because you became actually one of the biggest champions of arts and culture, creative economy, and helped to expand the understanding. It's not just non-profit arts and culture in traditional way, but you know, I'll be honest with you. I started in this field long ago, about 2000. And I thought in the beginning, yes, if you deal with high culture and real art and high culture, it's only non-profit.
Right.
And struggled and kind of couldn't find. Now I realize, no, it shouldn't be.
Right.
It's actually creative economy. It's you know, you can be for-profit, you can be independent, you can be fiscally sponsored project, you can have just a collective, a swarm project, whatever is the reason. If people have an urge to create, they will find a way. It shouldn't be like really rigid non-profit structure.
I agree, and quite frankly, many creative people are very well paid. Many are not, but there are many very successful people, such as Jay-Z and Beyonce, multimillionaires, and many others that are extremely successful and are philanthropists and other things. I mean, I think that the people who are creative, they want to be creative, but they don't necessarily want to be poor. And of course, everybody wants to, you know, create something that people appreciate and value. And so, for me, I'm really involved in this as a city councilman because it's part of the economy, and I'm very interested in people getting paid as much as they can be paid for what they do. And so talented people can do things, as I said, I can't do them, and they have innovative ideas. They take a lot of risk, and they should be well compensated. And there's a lot of people who want to do this because our economy on a global basis is shifting more and more to intellectual property, creative, innovative ideas, and the arts, music, and filmmaking and all those things. It's big business now, and for me, I want to make sure that people can make a living because that's what they're good at and that's what they love to do.
We were talking about that automation and AI. It creating a lot of people cannot do all these old menial jobs, senseless, a lot of times senseless jobs that they used to do. So they, in order to be successful, they do need to be creative.
Yeah.
And what can be better for teaching this creation than learning arts and culture or practicing?
Yeah, and let me just explain to the viewers that arts and culture in Philadelphia, just in the city of Philadelphia, is $3.4 billion annually. It is $930 million in household income per year. It's $157 million in local taxes. And it employs 37,000 full-time workers. So there are things that, jobs that we're losing, and there are jobs that we can gain. And in the creative economy, there's a lot of jobs that we can gain, or they will go someplace else. So I rather that we gain them, because we have a lot of people that are very talented, very interested, and again, it is a global economy. So the fact that people can speak another language or that they have familiarity with other countries gives them a great advantage in the global collaborations that will benefit our city.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and nevertheless, despite all these great facts and great information, when pandemic started, the first X fell on arts and culture.
Yes,
unfortunately. And it was the first time when I really, I realized the power of lobbying,
yes,
and advocacy, and pushing for a change. When I started to participate, signing all these petitions, participating in different task forces. But that's one of the things that got me really curious. I've heard the term task force before.
yes,
And now I had an experience participating in one for several months. It's actually been disbanded about 2 weeks ago.
right.
But I'm still a little bit not clear. What exactly is the role of the task force in the government process?
Okay, so let's say there's two roles. One is to provide information from the source to guide government into what is the best thing to do.
Okay.
And the other is to fool the people into thinking something's being done when nothing's being done at all. So there's two different types of task force, right? So let me say what the task force that is a real task force should do. One, it should have a very clear purpose that can be done by the governmental entity. In other words, we're a city. We're not the state, we're not the federal government, we're not a nonprofit. We deal with tax dollars and grants and things like that. So we're dealing with a budget, which is about $5.25 billion for the general fund in the operating portion of the budget. But the overall budget is probably like $14 billion overall, right? We don't touch that.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are dealing with is that during the pandemic, as you said, we lost a lot of jobs. For example, Philadelphia last year lost 62,800 jobs. And that would, if you just multiply times the median household income of $40,000 would be $2.5 billion that people are not receiving or paying taxes with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big number. And we received from the federal government $1.4 billion to stimulate the economy. How much of that went to ensure that the arts continue to thrive in Philadelphia and grow? And the answer is almost nothing.
Yeah.
So that is unfortunate. So the task force that was put together of art experts, people in different segments of the art around what is the impact. $310 million per year, or last year was lost. $310 million simply in the arts field, about half the arts-related jobs. So what is the answer? The answer is to take a portion of the $1.4 billion, which is given to us by the federal government, to revive the economy and to do it in a way where we know there's people who are ready to work. That it's not like they don't want to go to work. They love photography, they love videography, they love music, they love painting, they love sculpting, they love dancing. They're devoted to it. We know they want to work. They got to get paid. We got to get rid of COVID. We got to open up the venues. We got to ensure that we have grants and opportunities, not just for nonprofit, for profit. We have to make sure people are earning money and have a vibrant career. They're able to buy things. So, that is where we get into the fight, because the task force clearly recommended that at least $45 million be set aside into an arts recovery fund, not just for nonprofits. Nonprofits are important, but a lot of stimulating the economy is people who are earning a living and paying for things. So that was a struggle. There were other efforts, but at the end of the day, I can say that how do we know what's real and what's fake in politics? You just look at the vote.
Yeah.
Whatever people say, they vote. And so we have 17 members of council, and I introduced a bill, because nothing works without a bill. You have to introduce a bill to create a fund of $45 million for the arts recovery. And it was defeated as an amendment to the budget, 13 to 4. So only 4 people voted to create this arts fund.
And actually, I watched the video from the vote and then analyzed. I was, it's understandable. 3 people were voting as the one. You and 2 others that were members. Members of the.
3 others.
And 3 others that were members of the board of directors of Cultural Fund. So people who actually know the situation firsthand, who deal with them on a daily basis. But and I was really surprised by our councilman, Brian O'Neill. He never was a supporter of the art. Again, I even put on my website that when we receive checks from Cultural Fund, the smallest line is from District 10.
Right.
It's not Hunger Games, but it's close.
Yeah, but he voted for the Arts Fund.
Yes.
And so did Cindy Bass, myself, and Mark Squill. I was participating in this latest task force created by Isaiah Thomas and Kathleen Richardson. I believe there were around 40 people in this task force. Very active, very nice people. I can't say anything about them. 4 different groups. I was a part of small groups and individual artists. But people, one thing that hit me really sad. People were so confused about the about the impact, about the goal of this task, what would be the final. And the main thing, when debate started on the budget, things kind of started, all the mixed signals were coming in. Here, restore cultural fund to its formal $3.1 million. No, they need. They actually get elimination grant for 1.5. So great! It's great victory. Sure enough. It's nice. It's my money, but still, you have $4.1 billion. Then all the Cultural Alliance emails. Sign this petition. Call this councilman. $10 million, $20 million. Then 3 days before the actual vote, article appeared in Philadelphia Inquirer about your proposal for 45. So, can you shed a light what was going on behind that? I can. COVID, of course, you can't gather. When COVID first broke out, it's a law. You can't get together. So, among the first places hit were any public gathering places like arts venues. And of course, when they cancel, they got to refund all the tickets, cancel all the shows. People can't come in to eat dinner, they can't go to a hotel. So it was very much a problem for the venues, and as a result, it has a lot of indirect and direct impact on the arts economy. So we began to have hearings right away on we were just trying to assess. When COVID first happened, we thought it was a couple of weeks, right?
I remember.
A couple of weeks, maybe a month or 2, who knows, right? But as it became clearer and there were issues of how is the city dealing with the coming vaccine. And if people remember a thing called Philly fighting COVID, it was a mystery of how did they get in charge? What happened to the money? There was tens of millions of dollars, like 40 plus 80 plus something, and it was over $100 million. What happened to the money? We were trying to, we were arguing on council because it was an emergency process where we cannot meet in the chambers. We can, we have to do virtually, but it's very limited. And of course, I introduced a bill to try to investigate what happened to money around the, vaccinations, and basically that was defeated. So we never got an answer from the administration what happened to Philly fighting COVID and the money. The reason that's important is because at the same time, there are different technologies like bipolar ionization and other scanners that would help to ensure people that when they gather, no one has COVID. Of course, people can get vaccinated, and there are some technology where you can show you got vaccinated, but here's a technology, you scan your eye, and you can go, it shows whether you got vaccinated or not, you don't have COVID, right? But none of the money was put into that type of technology, and of course crime was rampant, and people are not coming into the city if they feel they're going to get shot or attacked, and so you got to take care of the crime, and you got to open the businesses, things like that. So as we looked at how we're going to deal with the situation, we already understood that there was a big problem. And so the idea of how much money could we put into a fund to help primarily, the for-profit arts businesses, because the nonprofits have nonprofit funding and things like that, but for-profit is critical to our economy. And we had a meeting over the summer with Martina White on behalf of the House, because she's part of the majority and in a leadership position now. And we discussed possibly a $40 million fund through the state.
Okay.
Not the city, the state.
Okay.
But then later, $1.4 billion was made available for stimulating the economy. So I wrote a bill, I drafted a bill, and by this time, based on the testimony, we had a public testimony, we increased it to $45 billion. Now, a bill is the mechanism to get funding. So we are working on a bill in Harrisburg for state funding, but we wrote a bill for this budget for $45 million. And we didn't think it was that much money compared to how much money we're losing, how much money would come in. And so I met with different groups, including the Cultural Fund, and I told them I had a bill, to appropriate $45 million into a fund, and they did not say anything. They said it's a good idea. And several days later, I was surprised to read in the Inquirer a story of how they were requesting council members to look for $20 million. It's $25 million lower than what's already in my bill. And a request, they're asking the council members to look for $20 million. There's no bill. You can't it doesn't come out of thin air. So I was very disappointed that they would start a petition because it was undermining the bill, which is looking for $45 million, and really putting out to the arts community. They have a very big list that they are looking for the council to try to get $20 million. And then what happens is, my bill would fully fund the cultural fund and all those things. But that's only a total of $4.1 million. And as you said, the cultural fund itself is $3.2 million. So what happened is the year prior, the mayor cut the arts budget from 4.1 to 0. I did a bill to amend and return all the money in from extra money in the budget. That was defeated 15-2. And the only person who voted for that was myself and Cindy Bass at that time. And then city council, through the appropriations chair, Maria Quinones Sanchez, put in $1 million. So from 3.2 to $1 million. And then council pulled out some money, and instead of putting it into the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, created another fund called Illuminate the Arts, and that's $1 million, right? So now you have two.
1.5, something.
Yeah, so like you're at like 2 million, right? 2 point something. But it's still lower than 3.2. So people thought there's a new million something, but actually the total is short. So then the mayor says, I'm going to double the arts from last time. It was 3.2 last time to 0 to 1. It's 1.5, but 5 went into someplace other than 1. And then you have Illuminate the Arts. So if you double this, you're still a little bit short of where you were before.
Exactly.
And so,
but you appear to do something.
Sounds like you're making a lot of things, right? But the total number is smaller, and the other thing, the process is different.
Mm-hmm.
So the Philadelphia Cultural Fund is an excellent process. No politics.
Mm-hmm.
People apply. They have people come in, they review. It's very transparent, and I think that is the best process for that. But again, that's only for $15,000, up to $15,000, mostly for nonprofits. But it's not enough.
I'm sorry interrupting you, but arts has several layers.
Yes.
And there is major art,
Right.
major ballet, opera, orchestra. There is commercial art. All this jazz bands and major clubs, entertainment.
Yes.
But there is a layer, a very big layer. By some estimates, I just recently read a dissertation written by scientists in Chicago. That those small individual artists, small organizations, normally consist of 85% of total art businesses, and they actually create innovation.
Right.
They're the only ones that create innovation,
Right.
because big companies, they put something that should bring them money.
Right. They commercialize.
They commercialize.
Right.
They can't take risks.
Right.
They
Right.
can't take creative risks. I can.
Yes.
People like I know, they can. They always experiment. They always come up with something new. Somebody makes it up, but that's why it's so important to support this.
Well, Chicago created a $60 million arts recovery fund because of COVID-19. New York did a fund, and they have a lot of money. We don't have much money in the arts, so this would be new, a $45 million fund. But as you said, different people saying different things. I really think that really undermined the entire effort, because when we have a bill saying 45, and then some letter comes out saying ask for 20.
It's not just letter.
Yeah,
it wasn't just letter.
Yeah.
It wasn't just petition. It was a conscious lobbying process.
Yes.
I was alerted by members of our task force that Cultural Alliance employs a professional lobbyist that works with all the city council members to push for those $20 million because they think it's more realistic.
Well, it's
their exact words.
I'm going to say that I know what you mean, and that's the problem, because out of $1.4 billion given to the city to stimulate the economy, which means create jobs and all that, you're talking about a little bit of $45 million, which is so impactful for people in Philadelphia who are advocates of the arts. To say it's unrealistic to ask for more than 20. It's ridiculous, and they shouldn't be advocates. If I am a fighter and you're a fighter, I don't say, you know what, I'll tell you what, we don't need to box. I'll give you 14 rounds if you give me one, and that'll be our settlement, right? No, we have to go in and fight, and that's my problem with this city. We introduced a bill. It's not like they lobbied for 20 million before I introduced it. I already introduced the bill. I'm a councilman. I have a committee. We put it in. It's based on public testimony like yours and others, and we know the numbers. So we're saying 45 million. For them to come in and say, oh no, we only want 20, is there a bill for 20? No, there's only a bill for 45. There's never a bill introduced for 20, and at the end of the day, they got about 3 for the existing grants, and then the council said, we have about 5. In what way, in what process, when? But why take 5 when, you know, you're asking for 45? So what is possible is what people want. And we see a lot of the city funding all kind of things because a little group of people demand it. And then we have such a huge group of people in arts and culture, a really enormous benefit to our economy, so many jobs, so many nonprofits and for-profits, independent artists. It's unreasonable for someone to say it's unrealistic to get that small amount. 45 million is not a lot of money compared to what I just said, $930 million in annual household income. It's just the money people are taking home.
I was actually very surprised looking at these numbers from culture. It was actually by Cultural Alliance from their research. I was thinking, oh my God, if any kind of investor would look at these numbers, and he would tell, boy, it's a return on investment like I wouldn't believe it.
Sure.
So that's why, by the way, one of the things I'm looking into right now, there's an organization of creative impact investment in creative economy.
Right.
That is really interesting. I'm going to watch the big video real soon and maybe get in touch. But my last question.
Yes.
What's next?
So, although the bill was defeated in council, we started with the idea that we would get the money through the state.
Okay.
And so, you know, that process continues, and we will be giving a proposal to the state within the next couple weeks for a $45 million arts recovery fund. But as a city councilman, how can I ask the state for money if I don't even create a bill? And if the bill is defeated, you know, if nobody cares in the city, why would they give us money? So it's very important to do things like you're doing, to gather the arts community and let everybody know, yeah, we're really disappointed that out of $1.4 billion, you had like basically no money for the arts, which is an immediate gainful employment for so many people.
It's not just employment. It's not just employment. You probably remember after our first conversation, I sent you this arts and culture bill that shows how arts and culture impact every problem.
So many things.
Every problem that the city ever faces.
Yeah, and let me say that I agree with you 100%, gun violence, you know, all kind of things. But when I deal with Harrisburg, and as we are dealing with city council and the mayor, they think of arts as a very fluffy thing that is a hobby, that isn't like a real economy. So I really have to focus on the fact that when you want to fund your police, your schools, you want tax dollars, when you want to ensure people are working and they're happy, as you said, fulfilled, then it's arts and culture. We are a city known for eds and meds, arts and culture. It's the basis of so many people coming to our city, spending money, and I have to make that argument to Harrisburg as to why they will peel off $45 million as a starter. What we're looking at is, for example, fashion, manufacturing, all of those type of things, warehouses and distribution. So we want to do those type of things.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was very interesting conversation.
Yeah,
you cleared a couple of things I was wondering, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people got a clear picture of what's going on. And ladies and gentlemen, this is our first podcast from this studio, and we thank our host, Pasha, Pavel, Paul, And we hope to continue this with your support. So please like, subscribe, share, and everything else that goes with this. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.